Diagnostic test. The main role of a teacher is to promote quality of learning among the students. This is possible only when you act as a guide and the student actively participate in the process of learning. During the teaching learning process, the teacher has to locate and identify the areas where the learner commit mistakes. It is the crucial stage of the teaching learning process where he or she has to diagnose and prepare instructional material for remedial teaching to ensure the desired quality of learning. It is used in education to determine the learning difficulties or deficiencies of the learner. A diagnostic test is used to determine the learning difficulties or deficiencies of the learner. A diagnostic test is a test designed to locate specific learning deficiencies in case of specific individuals at a specific stage of learning so that specific efforts could be made to overcome those deficiencies. Meaning of diagnostic test. Diagnostic test is a form of pre-assessment that allows a teacher to determine students' strengths, weakness, knowledge, and skill prior to instruction. It is primarily used to diagnose students' difficulties and to guide lessons and curriculum planning. Thorndike and Hagen suggested that a diagnostic test should provide a detailed picture of the strength and weakness of people in a particular area. Any test that yields more than a single overall score is diagnostic. Diagnosis has become an essential phase of developing plans of instruction to individual differences. A diagnostic test is a test designed to locate specific learning deficiencies in case of specific individuals at a specific stage of learning so that specific efforts could be made to overcome those deficiencies. It helps the teacher in identifying the status of learner at the end of a particular lesson or course of learning as to what specific teaching or learning points have been properly grasped by the learner. If such a deficiency is located in several students, it becomes obvious to the teachers to reflect upon whether something went wrong with his method of teaching. After administering the diagnostic test or battery test to students, a teacher takes remedial measures to overcome the deficiencies thus discovered. Next, differences between diagnostic test and achievement test. Diagnostic test differs from achievement test, though every achievement test has some diagnostic value and vice versa. The main difference is the way items are sampled. In achievement test, sampling of questions is not so exhaustive to cover each and every learning point, as the content is generally a large portion. Whereas diagnostic test, each learning point has several items, each cluster of such items forming a subset. The diagnostic value of the test is obtained from total score, which is the sum of the scores of the subject. The coverage of subject matter is more detailed, though based on smaller area than an achievement test. A diagnostic test thus requires a very careful analysis of the content and a detailed study of the common errors made by the students. Next, the difference between achievement and diagnostic test. Number one, it is used to test a student's general ability to achieve the objectives of the course, whereas diagnostic test is used to identify the student's strength and weakness with intention to ascertain what future teaching is required. In achievement test, it covers wide area content, whereas diagnostic test focus on the difficult area. In achievement test, the items are very complex. In diagnostic test, its items are very simple. For achievement test, total scoring of achievement test is necessary. In diagnostic test, required no scoring. In achievement test, it follows norms and it has fixed time limit, whereas diagnostic test does not follow any norms and has no fixed time limit. In achievement test, its nature is quantitative, whereas diagnostic test is qualitative in nature. Next, elements of diagnostic test. There are different elements of diagnostic test which could keep in mind while developing any diagnostic test for students. First one, look at the child. Next, identify the problem. Then planning and then select the appropriate assessment tools. Next, administration of tools and provide support system. Next, suggest learning materials and then observe the effect of assessment tools. Next, review the intervention done by administrator and then replan and follow. Next, importance and purpose of diagnostic test. Diagnostic assessment are small-scale tests, usually one-on-one, with purpose to gather specific data to help for planning a child-specific learning path. These are not limited to assessment that help identify specific learning difficulties. There are often but not exclusively used for students with special needs. They are typically given by highly trained staff members who understand the benefits and limits of these tests. The importance of diagnostic tests are as follows. The diagnostic test takes up where the formative test leaves off. A diagnostic test is a means by which an individual profile is examined and compared against certain norms or criteria. Diagnostic test focuses on individuals' educational weaknesses or learning deficiency and identify the gaps in pupils. Diagnostic test is more intensive and act as a tool for analysis of learning difficulties. Diagnostic test is more often limited to low ability students. Diagnostic test is corrective in nature. Diagnostic test is pinpointing the specific types of error each pupil is making and searches for underlying causes of the problem. Diagnostic test is much more comprehensive. Diagnostic test helps us to identify the trouble spots and discovered those areas of students' weaknesses that are unresolved by formative tests. Next, steps and stages in diagnostic test. The essential steps in educational diagnosis are: first one, identify the students who are having trouble or need help. Second one, locating the errors or learning difficulties. Third one, discovering the causal factors of slow learning. First one, identify the students who are having trouble or need help. First, one must know the learners who require help. For this, you can administer a general achievement test based on the topic already taught. After evaluation, you will be in a position to make list of students who are below average, average or above average. Next one has to locate the area where the error occurs in order to have a deeper insight into pupils' difficulties. Second one, locating the errors or learning difficulties. After identifying the students who need help and visualizing the necessity of additional instructional material to improve the quality of learning, your main role is to find out the area where the learner commits mistakes, or which is the area where learning difficulties lie. Third one, discovering the causal factors of slow learning. In some cases of learning difficulties, the causal factors are relatively simple. A student may be inattentive during the teaching learning or may be committing errors due to insufficient practice or irregular attendance. Sometimes the cause is ill health or faulty work habits, etc. It has also been observed sometimes that the basic cause of low achievement is a feeling of helplessness or the complexity of subject matter, which perhaps are much above in the level of their comprehension. Next, sequential presentation in the below figure shows how diagnosis leads to improved quality of learning, teaching learning, evaluation, and satisfactory performance of pupil. Next, a course of diagnosis: administer a general achievement test or use the data of previous testing. Identify pupils who need help. Next, locate the area of difficulty. Identify causal factors and provide remedial measures. Next, remedial measures. While diagnosis is the process of investigating the learner's difficulties and the reasons for this, its follow-up leads to actions that may help children make up their deficiencies. This step is generally termed remedial teaching. So, you have to be skilled in preparing or arranging for such materials which may be used to undertake corrective instruction and thus enhancing the quality of learning. The term remedial teaching is generally used instead of remedial instruction by various educationalists. The definitions are given below. The dictionary meaning of the term remedial teaching given by Carter is: remedial teaching means special instruction intended to overcome in part or in whole any particular deficiency of pupil not due to inferior general ability. For example, remedial reading, instruction for pupils with reading difficulties. From the above definition, it is clear that remedial teaching is a special instruction. It is intended to overcome the difficulties of the students related to instruction. It is based upon careful diagnosis of defects and causes. It eliminates bad habits of learning. It also prevents future errors. Next, selection of materials. The following points should be kept in mind while selecting appropriate instructional material. First one, the corrective material should be designed to correct the students' individual difficulties. Second one, you have to analyze the work of slow learners by means of observation, interview and diagnostic testing. A careful consideration of three may be help to decide what kind of corrective material is to be designed and whether materials will be adequate to correct the specific difficulties of learners. Third one, the corrective material should be graded, self-directed and should permit students to work independently. Written directions which accompany the material should be easily readable and comprehensible by the students. Fourth one, the corrective material must permit students to progress according to their pace. The material should encourage systematic recording of evidences of pupils' progress. Next, diagnostic testing and remedial teaching cycle. First one, diagnostic test. Second one, difficulties. Third one, applying remedial teaching. Fourth one, replan and follow. Next, strategies for remedial teaching. The strategies for remedial teaching are as follow. First one, class teaching. A particular lesson or lessons or topic is repeated on the normal classroom by using special aids or strategies. The class as a whole is benefited through such types of remedial teaching. Second one, group tutorial teaching. Students of the class divided into homogeneous group called tutorial group. On the basis of their common learning difficulties, teacher teach them by using various strategies. Third one, individual tutorial teaching. Difficulty of each student is attended individually by using special strategies. In this schedule, every learner who feels learning difficulty of one or the other nature is attended individually. Next, auto self-learning. This responsibility of overcoming difficulties is handed over to the learners. Self-learning, self-corrections are done by the student. Teachers also supervise the learning processes. Auto-instructional learning. In this technique, the learners provide with auto-correct instructional as self-learning materials and equipments like programmed learning, textbook and packages, auto-learning modules, teaching machines and computer-assisted programmed instruction. Next, informal teaching. Learning difficulties arise out of lack of interest and non-availability of first-hand experience are overcome by providing informal teaching situations like excursions, field trips, etc. Next, summary. It can be concluded that diagnostic testing and remedial instruction are like two sides of the same coin. Remedial instruction is a dynamic aspect of diagnostic testing. Evaluation procedures are useful in all phases of diagnostic and remedial work. Though the immediate aim of remedial work is the correction of specific learning difficulties, teachers' interest should not stop there. A careful analysis of evaluation results during diagnosis and treatment will reveal learning errors that can be prevented and causal factors that can be modified. The ultimate result of the remedial program should be an improved curriculum and effective instructional methods. Now, diagnostic testing, which is the most important part of the teaching learning process. It implies a detailed study of learning difficulties. Its aim is to analyze, not to assess. The nature and purpose of diagnostic testing is to identify the areas of difficulties where the learner commits errors. The stages of diagnostic test are identifying the students who need help, locating the error, and discovering the causal factors. After locating the area where difficulty lies, a teacher will devise some strategy to remove problems in learning and the causes due to which the learner has faced the difficulties. The strategy used by the teacher to remove the weakness of the learner is known as remedial teaching. Diagnostic test leads to remedial teaching, in which teachers have to prepare instruction material for quality learning, adopting different methodologies as per needs of individual or a particular group. Thank you.